This week, I'm going to go through explaining some directional terms in reference to the horse's anatomy. These terms can be really handy because when you're conversing with your vet about something that may be wrong with your horse, not only may they use these terms, so it helps you to understand them, but you could possibly use them when explaining to the vet, which will also help them understand what you're talking about and really reduce the risk of any misinterpretation. You've probably used these before or heard them at least. A couple of the big, really important ones is this one, which you may or may not be able to read, that says cranial, and this says caudal. Cranial refers to anything that's going towards the direction or in the direction of the horse's head, and caudal refers to anything in the direction of the horse's tail. So not only does it mean this is the cranial end of the horse and this is the caudal end of the horse, but if you look here where I've labelled these, this is the front limb. This is actually the caudal edge of the front limb, and this here is the cranial edge of the front limb. So caudal towards the tail, cranial towards the head, and that goes throughout the whole body except in the head. Actually, if we're talking down in this section, thank you for that, Jaffa, this is the cranial end and this is actually the rostral end. The other two major directional terms is dorsal and ventral. Dorsal is toward the spine, and this blue line here is really representing the spine area. So anything this way and above and towards the spine is dorsal direction, and anything towards the belly is then ventral direction. So like I said before, the legs, if we take them as an entity in themselves, this here is the cranial direction, this here is the caudal, but these terms change when we get to the lower leg of the horse. So in particular, when we're looking at the lower limb of the horse, this is the dorsal aspect of the limb, and this is the palmar aspect of the limb. And just to make it a little bit more confusing, when we go to the hind limbs, this is still the dorsal aspect of the hind limb. This is the cranial aspect of the hind limb. This is the caudal aspect of the hind limb. So this is the dorsal aspect and this is the plantar aspect of the lower limb. Okay, the other two terms are called proximal and distal, and these are a little bit difficult to draw on the horse. But proximal means closer to the body, whereas distal means further away from the body. So if we're in reference talking about this section of the leg, this is of course a distal part of the leg. So the parts of the leg that are further away from the body are distal. The parts of the leg that are closer here are proximal. Okay, there's one more, and again, it's a little bit hard to draw on here, but if we can imagine the midline running down the middle of the horse from here, or even running down the middle of our leg, we have both medial and lateral aspects. So the medial is toward the midline, and the lateral is away from the midline of the body. So that's medial and lateral aspects. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thanks, Jaffa, for being patient yet again. And we'll see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and see you next time.